Good morning and welcome to Melrose Unitarian Universalist Church. Our service today is called Turn Over a New Leaf. I'll try that again. Good morning. Good morning. Things were not moving in here, and so I said good morning too soon. Okay, anyway, I am the Reverend Dr. Suzanne Intriligator. I am the minister of this congregation, and I'm glad to see you all here this morning. Thank you for spending time with us, and hello to the people at home, too. Hi to everyone on Zoom. I appreciate you, and I hope our time together is worth your while. Today, there are several things that we are celebrating. First, the earth keeps turning. As you may know, on Thursday, it was the autumn equinox, when the day is exactly the same length as the night. That's what an equinox is, and fall officially began. Yes, it is colder this morning. I tried to turn on the heat in here, and I didn't have any luck. I hope everybody can stay warm. We've got some sweaters and jackets on. I think we'll be okay. So, not coincidentally, today also marks the beginning of the Jewish high holidays. That's when Jews the world over stop to consider their actions over the past year and to seek forgiveness for any wrong actions. Some of us here were raised in Jewish families. Some of us have family members who identify as Jewish, so these practices resonate with us. But most of us here presumably identify as Unitarian Universalists, and we UUs claim Judaism as one of the main sources of our faith. So we pause yearly to honor the holidays and reflect on their deep spiritual meaning. Later on in our service today, Barbara Lambiaso, a member of this church who was raised Jewish, will help me lead a special meditation about Rosh Hashanah. In addition to the equinox and Rosh Hashanah, today's service also marks another turning, and this one is unique to our congregation. Today is the last Sunday before my medical leave. This coming Friday, I will have a knee replacement surgery, and so for 3 Sundays after that, you all will have guest preachers. It's all set up, and all the details about who and where and when are in your midweek update, so have a look there if you have any questions. But because this is my last chance, before it all kicks off, to say thank you. I want to say thank you today to all the church leaders and all the volunteers who have pitched in to make this happen, to all the good people who are hosting worship in the coming weeks, you know who you are, and to those I hope will sign up to usher and make the coffee in the next 3 weeks. Thank you. Thank you for making real all of the stuff about community that I have been preaching about these last 4 years. Thank you for being my community in my time of need. I appreciate you. I will be resting, and I will be watching us on Zoom. Thank you. Now, let us have a look at this gorgeous community gathered here in person and online. Smile, wave hello to everyone, say good morning, say happy fall. Hi Donna, hi Nyla, hi Linda, hi Liz, hi Camille. Hi everybody, happy fall. You're all looking good this morning. So I call us to worship this morning with these words from the Reverend Joanna Lubkin, a UU minister who was raised in a Jewish family. She wrote these words to honor Rosh Hashanah. This morning, in this loving spiritual community, let us turn inward. Let us turn inward with honesty and compassion, seeing clearly the places where we missed the mark in our relationships with family, partners, colleagues, with the divine, with ourselves. When we see those places where we weren't the people we want to be, let us seek not to escape responsibility for ourselves by blaming our upbringings, our society, our institutions for their failure to make us perfect. Let us see without judgment, rather with hope and possibility. For we know that we are free. We are free to choose 12 times a day how we react to life's challenges. And moment by moment, how we realign ourselves with our values and center ourselves in who we want to be. And seeing clearly and honestly, let us forgive ourselves and each other. Let us begin again in love. And now together we light the symbol of our faith, the flaming chalice. Here to light it for us this morning is our Vice President for this year and next, Liz Folzer.
Please rise in body or spirit and recite the words to light our chalice, which will appear on the screen. Here they go. Love is the doctrine of our church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to demand that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This is our great covenant, one with another and with our God.
Thank you, Liz. Please remain standing if you would and join us in our opening hymn, which is number 323 in your gray hymnal, Break Not the Circle. Thank you. Please be seated. Our story today is called Super Tiny by Reverend Sunshine Wolf. Now, this story didn't come with any illustrations, so I asked my son Eli to help out. He is not an artist, but he is a computer programmer. So he used a new AI program called DALL-E to generate these illustrations. See what you think of them. This one goes out for the nerds. Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Amanda who loved to help other people. She helped her fathers to clean the house, she raked up the leaves in her neighbor's yard when he couldn't do it himself, and she tutored her friend in math. So when it came time for her class to do a project to help people in her hometown, Amanda was excited. Teacher Mike assigned each student a community of people that they should help. Some would help those living with illness, some would clean yards for those who could not clean their own. Each project was a little bit different. Teacher Mike told Amanda that he would like her to help the people in Walden, the poor part of town, who are hungry. He said, "You can do any type of service project you like, but I want you to help those who are hungry." Amanda couldn't wait. She thought all day about what she could do. When Amanda got home, she told her fathers about the project. I want to make sandwiches and take them to the people who are hungry. So together they made 100 sandwiches for the poor people in Walden. They placed each sandwich in a bag with a piece of fruit. The next day in Walden, Amanda tried handing out the sandwiches, but no one really seemed interested in them. She offered them to people who were young and old, brown and white, friendly and rude, but the answer was always the same. I ate earlier, but thank you. Amanda was confused. Then she saw another little girl about her age. Amanda approached the little girl. Would you like a sandwich? The little girl looked at her for a moment and then said, Are you going to ask me my name? Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Amanda. What is your name? My name is Tiny. The name was clearly appropriate, for this little girl was tiny. Why are you handing out sandwiches? She asked. Well, it's a class project. I was asked to help those who are hungry here in Walden, so my fathers and I made sandwiches to give to everyone. Tiny laughed for a long time. Then she said, Well, we do get hungry here sometimes, but we never take food from strangers. Some of my neighbors go to the soup kitchen each evening. Amanda was upset that Tiny had laughed at her project. Angrily, she said, Well, what would you do then? Tiny looked seriously at Amanda. You really want to help us? Amanda nodded, but she didn't speak because she was just too mad. Tiny explained, We have a garden that the city gave us. They also gave us seeds, but most of the seeds were bad or for food that we don't really like to eat, like turnips. Yuck, who needs 1,000 turnip seeds? Amanda laughed. Tiny explained that what they really needed were healthy seeds for foods the community really wanted to eat and tools to help dig up the land and water the garden. Tiny said that if Amanda wanted to help, she could get her class and her dad's and her friends to write letters to the city council asking that a grocery store be put in the neighborhood because the closest one was 45 minutes away by bus. Tiny and Amanda talked for a long time, and not just about the needs of Walden. It turns out that they both like to jump rope and sing songs and make bird calls. Their parents also spent some time chatting, and soon the two families were friends. Amanda decided that her project would be to ask her church, her class at school, her family, and friends to come down to Walden and ask the people what they needed. She did, and all those people helped the community get the tools and the seeds they needed, and together they shared in a big harvest meal that fall. It would take a long time, but eventually Amanda and her friends would also help to get a grocery store in Walden. Amanda learned a big lesson that day. She learned that you cannot decide what people need help with. You have to ask them what they need, and then do that. She also learned that sometimes, if you ask a stranger what they need, you might make a friend. That is the end of our story. Thank you for your good listening, and the children may go down to their classes now. Each week, we take a few minutes out for prayer and meditation, a time for each of us to center ourselves and connect with the holy, however it is we understand the holy. Let's start by relaxing into our chairs, feeling our feet on the floor, letting our bodies settle. Let's breathe in and out together. In this meditation time, first we'll join in our centering song, then we'll sit for a few minutes of shared silence, then we will speak to one another of our joys and sorrows, and then we'll have a prayer. We have 2 worship themes for September. They are belonging and our first UU principle, the worth and dignity of every person. In this month, Let us notice and nurture the richness of our community, and let us renew our commitment to justice and peace for the whole human family. Our centering song for the month is called "There's a River Flowing in My Soul." Please remain seated, join in singing as you like, and let the music carry you into our time of silence.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart. And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart.
Every Sunday, we share with one another the personal milestones of our lives, our joys and sorrows. We listen to one another with openness and compassion, letting this sharing weave us into an ever stronger community. Folks on Zoom, you can go ahead and type in any sorrows that you want to share today into the chat box, and then I will read them aloud in a moment. People here in the room, feel free to come forward if you have a sorrow you'd like to share today and speak into the mic so people can hear you and see you. Go ahead, Jennifer. Oh, I think your mic isn't on. Thanks, Eric.
I have a candle of sorrow for a coworker who passed away unexpectedly. She was a wonderful therapist in her 60s who helped a lot of people over her career. She was a really wonderful coworker and therapist.
Jennifer, I'm sorry. I see we don't have any sorrows in our chat room. So Eric, if you would go ahead, please, and light one of these 2 candles. And while he does that, let us pause, hold all these sorrows, all that are spoken and unspoken in our hearts today. Let us reach out to all who are hurting with caring and compassion. Let us light this candle as a beacon of care for all those sorrows. Now I ask if there's any joys that people would like to share. People in Zoom can go ahead and type them in the chat box. Anyone here can come forward and share a joy at the microphone. Come on, Tom.
Good morning, Tom Kurz. Kathy came back from Star Island last week. On Monday, she woke up with a sore throat and tested and was positive for COVID. She called her doctor, got a prescription for Paxlovid, and as of Friday morning, she tested negative. Kathy and I have stayed as far apart as we could for a week in a 1-bedroom apartment, and I've been negative all the way. So we hope she stays negative.
That's a joy. Thank you, Tom. That's a joy for Kathy. She's negative now from COVID. Come on, Barbara.
Hi, my name is Barbara Lambiaso, and my joy for today is my mom is visiting for the Jewish holiday, and she hasn't been to visit since before COVID, so we're just really excited, and I'm glad to have a couple of days with her.
Welcome, Barbara's mom. This mic you have to get close up to. Go ahead.
I'm Corey Mann, and this is a candle of joy for a visit to a college reunion, 35th college reunion, and all of the silly cattiness that you probably remember from our school days is gone. And all of a sudden, there is just this wonderful kind of community building and getting to know people that I had never, some that I, of course, was close to and was pleased to see, but others that I had never really known, and it was a real joy.
Thank you, Corey.
Good morning. I'm Cheryl Livingen, and my joy this morning is that Lily had her very first band competition with the marching band yesterday, and I don't know what numbers mean, but they got 4th place, which was like 69.6 for their score, and she seemed to have a fun time even though her flute was not working correctly, but I'm excited, she's excited, and like bring on band competitions. So.
Hooray for the Melrose High School Marching Band. Woo! Oh, and I see we have a couple of joys here in the chat room. From Lisa Wilson Wright. Joy that Lisa's kidney donation surgery went well, and John is active on the National Kidney Registry transplant list. Hooray for John and Lisa. And from Liz Broder, 7 years since my encephalitis meningitis, I survived. We're glad that you did, Liz. Thank you for sharing. Let us take a moment now and hold all these joys, both spoken and unspoken, in our hearts. Thank you for sharing these joys, which connect us to one another and remind us of all the beauty there is in living. Eric, if you would go ahead now and light one more candle to shine out our gratitude for all the many blessings in our lives. And now, in honor of Rosh Hashanah, which begins today at sundown, Barbara Lambiaso will join me here for a special meditation on the meaning of the Jewish high holidays.
Is this okay? Tashlich is an old Jewish custom performed on the afternoon of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. The previous year's sins are symbolically cast away by throwing pieces of bread or a similar food item into a large natural body of water, such as a river, a lake, sea, or ocean.
Imagine now, if you will, that you are throwing away all of your mistakes from this past year. You're throwing them into the water and watching them float away from you. What is it that you need to let go of and release today?
These words are from Stephen Levine's Forgiveness Meditation.
If you would, please join us in the spirit of meditation. Close your eyes. Bring into your heart the image of someone for whom you feel much resentment. Take a moment to feel that person right in the center of your chest. Open your heart to the suffering you have endured because of their mistakes.
And in your heart, bring compassionate understanding to this person. Say to them, for anything you may have done that caused me pain, anything you did, either intentionally or unintentionally, through your thoughts, words, or actions, I forgive you. Begin to relax the iron grip of your resentment, to let go of your anger. If it hurts, let it hurt. Say to them, I forgive you, and allow them to be forgiven.
Now bring into your heart the image of someone you wish to ask for forgiveness. Open your heart to a compassionate awareness of the suffering that you have caused them, intentionally or unintentionally. Find within yourself the humility and courage to ask for their forgiveness. Say to them, for anything I may have done that caused you pain, my thoughts, my actions, my words, I ask for your forgiveness. Let your heart soften, open to the possibility of forgiveness. Allow yourself to be forgiven.
Now, bring an image of yourself into your heart, floating at the center of your chest. Open your heart to a compassionate awareness of the suffering you have caused to yourself and others in this passing year. Bring your attention to the ways of being you have taken on, consciously or unconsciously, that have caused you to miss the mark. Realize how those ways of being no longer serve you.
Bring yourself into your heart and say to yourself, for all that you have done in forgetfulness and fear and confusion, for all the words and thoughts and actions that may have caused pain to anyone, I forgive you. Open to the possibility of self-forgiveness. Let go of all the bitterness, the hardness, the judgment of yourself.
Make room in your heart for yourself. Say, I forgive you to you.
Amen.
This church is a self-supporting organization funded by your generous annual pledge. You may also contribute to our weekly collection plate, which we split every month with a deserving cause. Folks on Zoom can donate either way using the orange button at the top right corner of our homepage at melroseuu.org. For the month of September, we will be giving half our collection plate to the Victims' Rights Law Center, which provides free comprehensive legal services for sexual assault victims here in Massachusetts. For our offertory music today, our choir will sing "We Are One" by Brian Tate.
Thank you. We are one, sang the choir just now. I love that song, especially that line, when we're hurting one another, that's the way we hurt ourselves. When you think about it, it's like a corollary of the golden rule. I think I need water. Ooh. I think it was a year ago now that I preached a whole sermon about the golden rule. You know, the idea that we should treat each other as we want to be treated. I said then that most people in our culture trace that rule back to the words of Jesus, who said, love your neighbor as yourself. And they assume that Jesus invented this idea. But the truth is that that maxim of reciprocity dates back much further. Scholars have found it in ancient Egyptian texts from 2,000 years before the birth of Jesus. It also appears in ancient texts, both religious and secular, from India, Persia, Greece, and China. Pretty much whenever and wherever humans existed, they taught some version of the golden rule. Maybe we should just call it the human rule. Recently, however, I heard about a modern spin on the golden rule, which some people consider an improvement, an update, a refinement. So I wanted to investigate it with you all today. It's called the platinum rule. Because, you know, supposedly platinum is more valuable than gold. Have you heard of it? Anybody here? So here's a story to get us going by way of explanation. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful valley with a river flowing through it. One day it rained and rained and rained, and the river began to rise and rise and rise. The animals sensed danger, so the ones who could run ran for higher ground, and the ones who could fly flew higher and higher. Up in a tree, a monkey looked down at the water, and he saw a mighty fish struggling there in the current. He decided to help that fish, so he climbed down and scooped her up and carried the fish up to the safety of the high tree branches. Now, 3 days later, when the flood finally ebbed and the animals returned, the fish was not well. You can guess what happened. The fish up in the tree without water had died. The golden rule is to treat others as you would want to be treated, which is what exactly the monkey did here. The platinum rule is do unto others as they would like you to do unto them. If the monkey had stopped to ask the fish what she wanted, things might have ended up differently. So that's the platinum rule. Just as an aside, I had originally thought about using the monkey and the fish story for the children's story this morning, just to illustrate the platinum rule, but my husband, dear James, stopped me and said, that's just too sad, you can't do that. Thank you, James. So I retooled. The more I thought about the golden rule and the platinum rule and the difference, the more I saw it popping up in my own life. Here's an example. My husband, the aforementioned James, loves food like nobody I know. You could call food his love language because that's how he expresses care for people, by bringing them treats, and just about every day. I joke that we need to check his car because it automatically stops at every bakery. He just can't pass one by. But the thing is, sometimes I don't really want sugary stuff in the house. It's dangerous. Sometimes for a treat, I don't want a brownie. What I want, or what I need, is a nap, or a hot bath, or a foot rub. You know, if you're married or in any kind of relationship, you can probably think of an example of your own, a moment when someone got you something they thought you wanted without asking you first. It happens all the time, especially when it comes to gift giving. Relationships are tricky. But I think holding in our minds the difference here between the golden rule and the platinum rule can help us see the difference here, can help us see assumptions that we often make in our relationships, and how we might start letting them go and start talking, or keep talking, about our actual wants and needs. Because if we can't talk about them, we can't really expect them to ever get fulfilled. It's in the talking and the listening where a beautiful thing called empathy happens. And empathy is what can bring us healing. In our story this morning, the one I did tell to the children, that's really what happens. A little girl, Amanda, thinks she knows what the poor people in Walden want: sandwiches. It's pretty straightforward. Hungry people want food, so she brings it. That's the golden rule. If I were hungry, I'd want a sandwich, so I'll bring sandwiches. But nobody wants her sandwiches, and she is confused until she meets Tiny, who explains it to her. We don't take food from strangers. And I had to think about that. Yeah, I don't either. Even on Halloween, I go through all the kids' candy and throw away the stuff that isn't wrapped up, because the stuff that's wrapped up, still intact, has a label on it. And, actually, I kind of have a relationship with Hershey and M&Ms, right? If it's still wrapped up, it comes from them, and they have a brand to uphold, so I know that it's going to be fairly good. In a way, candy, if it's still wrapped up, that is not from a stranger. There's an underlying relationship there. So that behavior makes sense after Tiny explains it. We don't take food from strangers. She doesn't want your sandwich in a Ziploc. If you really want to help, you have to first make a relationship and build trust. You have to ask what people need and then listen and then do it. Nobody has all the answers going in before they've even arrived on the scene. That's golden rule thinking. That's making assumptions based on your experiences, as if your experiences were universal, but they aren't. And that can be a hard lesson to learn sometimes. Here's another story. My friend, the Reverend Karen Johnston, is our minister in East Brunswick, New Jersey. But she used to be a social worker here in Massachusetts, and she sometimes ran workshops for people who provided services for other people experiencing homelessness. To teach these helpers about the Platinum Rule, my friend Karen asked participants to pair up with a partner that they didn't know, and then pretend that they're all in a mall and they get to go up to that person and ask directions to the nearest food court. Then Karen would take out a measuring tape and see how far apart the people stood when asking for directions. The exercise worked well as a concrete way to make visible some previously invisible cultural differences in what each of us defines as acceptable personal space. Karen put it this way, quote, "Just think about your last several experiences in line at the grocery store. There have probably been times when you felt that the person behind you needed to back off a little bit. Or you might have experienced the person in front of you glaring at you when you started to put your stuff on the conveyor belt before they had moved to the payment machine. I certainly have noticed that the accepted personal space in line at the Savers, which is a large secondhand clothing store in West Springfield that has a variety of languages, Russian, Spanish, Portuguese, Somali. There, it's quite different than at Star Market in Wellesley." Unquote. Karen goes on, "We often assume that the proper distance for having a conversation is the distance with which we feel comfortable. We assume that our comfort zone is the comfort zone, and that's just not the case. If we really want to help other people find good solutions, if we want to build relationships that actually honor the worth and dignity of other people, especially folks from a different culture or perhaps even from a different generation, then we have to become aware of our assumptions and make space for differences. We have to begin to see that our own cultural practice is not the only one good way, but simply one among many good ways. And the Platinum Rule can help us on that path. Here's another example. In May 2017, the Oprah magazine, published a series of photos that quickly went viral. Maybe you saw them somewhere online. Apparently, the idea originated from Oprah herself. She wanted to spark conversation about race in America. But actually, I find these photos more about whiteness in America, about how our culture portrays whiteness as the norm and everything else as different and therefore inferior. Anyway, photographer Chris Buck understood the assignment. Here is image number 1. What do you notice about that? How does it make you feel in your body? Okay, we can go to image number 2 now. Do you notice anything else in your body happening? Any feelings? And let's go to image number 3, and this is the last one. There were some other in the series, but they're not appropriate for Sunday morning. But the images are jarring, right? Because they turn upside down our expectations. They switch around who is waiting on whom and who is looking for representation in the world. The little girl is looking for a doll that looks like her, and she doesn't see one. By swapping around the expectations, we become aware of what it is we were expecting to see. We become aware of how often, meaning kind of always and everywhere, we see the opposite. Women of color waiting on white women in their homes or in a nail salon, or a little black or brown or Asian girl looking for a doll that looks like her in a sea of white faces. The images I showed are jarring because they subvert our expectations. And in that way, we become aware of our expectations. We become fish that suddenly see the water that we are swimming in. Or perhaps we're the monkey that put the fish up the tree. I'm getting my metaphors all confused today. The point is that we can suddenly feel that we are immersed in a culture that continually tells us that whiteness is normal and best, that white people are served to the degree that it becomes invisible to us. It's just that water we're swimming in. And sometimes when we try to help and we're still in that culture, we assume that we know which way is good and best, that we have all solutions ready to go, even for folks we haven't met yet. Just this past week, I was talking with the worship committee about our worship structure and our order of service. And we know that all of it comes to us almost unchanged from a historically white Protestant New England tradition. Most of us grew up within this culture or a similar one, so our hymns and our prayers and our practices feel comfortable to us. They feel right. But what if you came from a totally different culture? What if you did not grow up in a predominantly white New England church? Or what if you've never been to church at all before? Would you feel comfortable here among us? Or would you feel that on Sunday morning, what we do is very strange and maybe you feel like an outsider? Often folks in our congregation say they want us to change, to become more diverse in our membership, to see more different people in our pews. But sometimes it's these very same people who don't want to change worship at all, change music or prayers or the way we do things. But what if it's these very practices that are keeping us small and samey? The leadership guru, Ron Heifetz, says there are 2 types of challenges in life. The technical ones, where the problem is well-defined and experts can provide answers, and the adaptive ones, where the problem isn't exactly clear, and the solution only comes when all the stakeholders and all the people work together and create something new. So many of the challenges that we face today, from parenting to leading church to social justice work, are all adaptive challenges. There are no experts. There are no easy answers. There are only people who need to communicate and work together and create something that's brand new. A lot of people in the world believe that Jesus invented the golden rule, but he did not. It's been around forever. Because it's human to want to treat other people well. And it's also human to think that we already know how to treat other people well, the way we want to be treated, the golden rule way. But humans are also capable of learning and growing. We're capable of seeing that our way is only one among many, that each person has their own perspective and practice, that to truly honor the worth and dignity of other people, we need to be in relationship with them. And these relationships need to be always changing, always growing along with the people. To know what someone wants or needs, we have to ask them and we have to listen. The platinum rule: do unto others as they want you to do. So for today's challenge, I challenge you to try the platinum rule. when you talk with a loved one or a neighbor or somebody in coffee hour and you hear maybe that they're struggling or hurting, instead of offering a solution, just offer your openness. I hear you, and I'm here with you. And if you can think of any way I can help, please let me know. In our call to worship this morning, I used words by the Jewish UU minister, Joanna Lubkin. In honor of Rosh Hashanah, she wrote, "Let us turn inward with honesty and compassion, seeing clearly the places where we missed the mark. Let us see without judgment, but rather with hope and possibility, for we know that we are free to choose how we react, free to realign ourselves with our values and who we want to be." Today, as the earth turns to fall, as the days turn toward Rosh Hashanah, let us open ourselves to the possibility of healing. Let us forgive ourselves and each other. Let us begin again in love. Amen. We end today with another great song that connects us to the first principle, to honoring the worth and dignity of every person. It's Mark Miller's "Draw the Circle Wide." Choir, let's hear it. You guys are great at this one. Please rise in body or in spirit. Join with me. Thank you. Please remain standing and join me in our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish the flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts. Amen. Please be seated. Our service has ended. Folks in Zoom can stay in the main chat room and have a conversation. People here in just a minute can gather in Parish Hall, where we'll have some nice snacks and coffee. We've got a postlude from Tom. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for worshiping with us today, and we'll see you again soon.